Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today guys, we're going to be diving down into XRP to see what's been going on most recently with the price action. I was wrong about one of the recent moves and I want to kind of correct that so you guys are aware of what went wrong and what this actually means slightly longer term and shorter term and all that kind of good stuff. So as we get into this video, if you do find this video useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then do go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you are going to be kept up to date with all the XRP technical analysis that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with all that said, done and out of the way, let's jump on down into the desktop and take a look at where I went wrong and see what actually I think this might lead into next. Okay guys, we're going to be taking a look at the hourly chart. What I was wrong about was effectively this triangular wedge. My entry point was incorrect and therefore I was expecting the break to the upside and we actually had the break to the downside. So I really want to kind of illustrate how this went wrong so that you can be better prepared for what this means next, right? So here is a pullback that we had. And then we had an ABC up, and then we have this motion to the downside. Now, I've taken, or I had taken this as our A wave, when actually the A wave in itself is right here. So it is still a triangular wedge, and I'm going to just clear that off and show you, right? So rather than the A being at the bottom, the A is at the top. And when it comes to these triangles, it's really important where this A wave starts. If it starts at the top, it means you're going to be breaking down, and if the A wave starts at the bottom, you're going to be breaking to the upside. So the fact that the A wave is at the top here is the part that I missed, and effectively what we have is A, B, C, D, E, and this E wave at the top here then allowed us to break down into an impulsive move. So what we had here was a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to the downside. And the good news is we actually filled this gap that I've been talking about for quite some time. This was the area that I was looking forward to actually coming down and filling. This is a gap that was left behind over this side, and it was something that I was very conscious of, that we needed to come down and actually fill this gap because from a technical analysis point of view, traders don't like gaps. They like to make sure that they get filled, which is why there's such a huge focus on $20,000 Bitcoin, and that's because there's a gap there that hasn't been filled, right? Doesn't mean that it's going to get filled. It doesn't. These gaps, they have a high probability of getting filled, but they don't always get filled, right? So when you see them, you kind of think, okay, we have to come back down. We have to revisit that zone. And in the case of Bitcoin, we haven't come down and we haven't refilled it. And that's perfectly fine. That is something that, you know, is okay. It's perfectly fine from a technical point of view. It's just traders don't like it. So when we saw this gap here, we were quite aware that it has a probability of pulling back down. And when I actually had this A wave down at the bottom here, it was indicating that we were not going to come down to this gap. So in a roundabout way, yes, I obviously had this the wrong way round, this A wave, and actually the breakdown was actually up here, heading into this impulsive move to the downside. We found interesting support, obviously down here. This was also highlighted at about 63.1. We had a couple of wicks just go lower than that, and then we've obviously broken to the upside in a really good way. So I just wanted to kind of highlight the importance of making sure that you get this A wave right. For me, I overlooked this little pullback right in here, and this is the one that really threw me. So this is the A wave, not this one here. So I wanted to correct that so you guys knew where I went wrong, and therefore you guys can be better prepared for where I went wrong, and you could hopefully prevent that from happening to yourselves. Going forward though, we are obviously tracking quite nicely to the upside here, and we actually have this measured out. So this is our A wave. We take this and we transpose it over to the bottom of our B wave just here, and we can see that we actually just wicked above the 1-to-1 ratio, but we're pretty much exactly where we'd expect to be. And again, this is just an A up, a B wave down, and a C wave higher. And again, you can count all the little waves inside there if you want to. You could also argue that we actually had an A wave up here, a B wave down, and then an impulsive move, making this a fourth wave down. And that's very possible, and it might mean that this actually ends up going a lot more of an extended wave to the upside. And there's another way that we could also count this, something similar that we've seen with many other altcoins, and that is that we actually have just down here a wave 1, a wave 2 coming here, this being wave 3, this being wave 4, which again is a triangular wedge, and then we had this blast up top. Now this is probably a neater way because I think it's really aligned to how the rest of the market's been moving. So if we were to do that, we can see that we actually wicked way above the 1.618 heading towards the 2.618. So really interesting. Now this move, this fifth wave, this extended fifth wave, I think is a best way of kind of looking at it. I'm going to just remove this fib here because we don't need that one. When we take a look at this, we can also look for 5 waves inside our 5th wave, right? Because with Elliott theory, there are waves inside waves across different timelines. Now, we actually draw this up with this would have been an A wave up higher, for example, this B wave coming down lower, and this is a clear impulsive move just here. Now, you could argue that this is a 4th wave, but it overlaps 1, so that's not the case. This actually looks like wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 probably here, wave 4 moving up, so there's probably some kind of 4th wave just in here as well, and then we get the 5th wave. But this, in essence, could actually just be our 3rd wave, which is probably about right. This then being our 4th wave pullback, and then we're tracking a little bit higher. And if we measure this distance, because if we grab that and put it here, the minimum threshold for a 5th wave would be 1.618. Okay, so we overlay this, it actually now puts us a little bit above the 2.618 and a little bit shorter than the 3.618. So this actually looks quite probable. And inside here, we just have an ABC move, which is again something that you would expect to see inside of this particular move, right? So this 4th wave or B wave, however you want to look at it, it's an ABC down, and then we'll be looking to move on up. So that's actually looking pretty good, and we are looking for a bit of an extension here. We are looking for a push up along with the rest of the market. For Bitcoin and many of the altcoins, they're all looking like they need to push up on our hourly stochastic RSI, for example. So just at the bottom here, we can see that we're oversold on XRP on the hourly, but the 4-hourly does need to come down. We need a correction on the 4-hourly chart, and of course, we need a correction here on the 8-hourly chart, right? Now, when we come up into the daily, this is actually in a pretty good position. It's actually just coming out of the oversold area, and the weekly has actually progressed quite a bit to the upside. So we want to be quite cautious that we actually need to have a correction on the weekly chart as well. The monthly is actually heading down into the oversold area. So there's going to be some volatility on XRP that's going to be very much needed, specifically after such a good surge to the upside that we've seen. So for XRP right now, I think there's a probability here that we have a good shot at moving up towards 83.0 cent. But we have to be very aware of what would invalidate that, right? So we cannot go any lower than our wave just here, right? So this 4th wave, it has to stay above wave 1. So yeah, we want to be making sure that we are aligned to that. There's actually a pretty decent amount of pullback in there, really. So if we actually review that, we are all the way down here, actually. So we don't want to go any higher than 70 cent, or sorry, any lower than 70 cent, because that would invalidate that move a little bit higher here. And in fact, what we end up with is just the standard 5 waves here, and then what we'll actually be tracking is just ABC. So regardless of whether you want to look at it from an extended 5th wave going higher, or whether or not we want to kind of look at this as just another ABC move to the upside, my target for this move is approximately around this 83 cent range. That's kind of what I'm seeing here as the most probable outcome. After this, though, after we've actually had that surge to the upside, whether or not we think that's going to be 5 waves or just an ABC move, there is going to be a relatively steep correction across the market, and this is going to be an ABC in my opinion. Now, this is basically to allow us to correct the 4-hourly, the 8-hourly, and in the case of XRP, we also need to correct our weekly chart as well. Okay. So the price momentum here, we could actually pull back down relatively significantly, probably down towards this gap that was left before, right? If we actually take a look at that, this is going to be in that range of the 618. Let me draw this the other way around so we actually have a look at it from a retracement perspective. If I grab hold of it from the low point of wave 1 all the way up to that 83 cent high, and then we just expand this up, you can see that this area, this gap that we've been kind of looking at, the 618 falls directly in there. The 702, it's at 67, and the 786 is at 66 cents. Now, I don't expect us to go down any lower than we were previously. I'm not expecting a full retracement, but I am expecting a retracement of significance, a significant kind of retracement that will allow the market to get corrected, allow it to be profits to be taken from traders, etc., and then to start to resume, an upward trend from there. The one thing that we don't want to see within this pullback is for this C wave to go impulsive. because that will actually take us down lower. So we are conscious and very aware that there's certain things that we want to see and certain things that we don't want to see, right? So we do want to see an ABC correction after this little leg up, and then from there we want to see this progression back to the upside. What we don't want to see is this move to the downside, turn impulsive and take us into lower lows. Okay, so the market in itself pretty much is where it needs to be, in terms of Bitcoin and many altcoins. XRP is a little bit far behind on its weekly chart. It needs to get a bit of a correction on there in order to allow us to kind of continue this good growth that we've been seeing. I say growth, but more recovery that we've been seeing. A lot of this stuff, though, I think, it comes down to what is going on with the SEC and Ripple. One way or another, that case will be settled, and as a result of that, we are going to start to see price movement of significance here for XRP as well. And I've often said on this channel, it doesn't matter if you win, lose, draw, settle. Ultimately, price of XRP is going to surge afterwards, and I'm pretty confident on that, specifically because we have a lot of history on other coins that have actually been classified as securities by the SEC over in the US, and the very next day they've absolutely surged to the upside. Now, obviously, market conditions at the time of those coins being classified as securities is vastly different to what we have today, so we do have to take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt, but ultimately the data is suggesting that generally, people don't really care as long as there's a form of clarity. Call it a security, don't call it a security, but just make your damn mind up over what it is. Once you have that clarity, I think the markets are free to kind of dive in and understand what it is that they're actually trading. And once we have that, I do believe XRP is going to perform incredibly well. Guys, I'm going to leave the video there. Hopefully you have found this useful and informative. If you have, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe? Tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you are going to be kept up to date with all of the videos that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.